Bayley recently had a very unique interaction on a flight, so we'll see what the story is there. We'll also check out what's going on with Paul Heyman, Damage CTRL, and more. Starting things off with Bayley's flight experience. WWE superstars are no strangers at all to flights. They're traveling multiple times a week to all these different cities all over the country. It's just a normal everyday thing for them. But what's not a normal everyday occurrence is when the captain of the flight comes up to the WWE superstars and fully recognizes them. Bayley took to her Instagram story to reveal a card that was given to her by the flight staff that came directly from the captain. It looks like the captain took notice that Bayley was on this flight, so he decided to write out a little message to Bayley on a card. The card said that they appreciated Bayley, how they're a big fan, and how Bayley should stay being mean to Michael Cole. So it was a nice little interaction that definitely made Bayley's day. Damage CTRL is still around on SmackDown, but they've lost a little bit of their way after losing Bayley and now the WWE Women's title from the group. Prior to WrestleMania 40, things were looking great for them. They felt like they were outsmarting Bayley. They felt like they were stronger than ever since they felt like Bayley was a weak link. But obviously all of that has flipped in current day. So with the loss of Iyo's title and possibly the loss of the women's tag team titles coming up in the near future, Damage CTRL is really going to be tested to see if they'll crumble under this rough patch or if they'll be able to stay united and get through it. We haven't gotten that many hints and teasers about the conflict in the group, but judging by what we saw so far, it seems like there'll be a power struggle at least between Dakota Kai and Iyo Sky. Ever since Bayley left the group, one of the main things we discussed was the question of, who do we now look at as the true leader of Damage CTRL? Even if a group claims they have no leader, everyone knows that there's still one character that appears to be above the rest of the group. And when it came to Damage CTRL post-Bayley, we basically gave the leader role to Iyo Sky, because she was the WWE Women's Champion after all, so it was only right. But now that Iyo Sky has lost the women's title, it's interesting because now maybe Iyo doesn't deserve that leadership title, and the group will now be fighting over it. And if Iyo isn't the clear leader anymore, it seems like Dakota Kai will be the one that steps up and makes the most out of this opening and opportunity within Damage CTRL. WWE spent a lot of time labeling Dakota Kai's character as the true brains and the mastermind behind Damage CTRL's operations. We saw a bit of those mastermind skills on display when Dakota Kai was manipulating Bayley for several weeks before WrestleMania 40 as a part of her plan. And Bayley never saw it coming until it was too late, so Dakota Kai is capable of quite a lot. Dakota was doing a lot of mastermind work behind the scenes for the group, especially over the last year where she wasn't medically cleared to compete. But now that she's back, she's healthy, and Iyo has lost the title and lost a bit of control over the group, is this truly Dakota's opportunity to shine and break through? Maybe Dakota's big and secretive mastermind plan this whole time was to win the women's title for herself and take leadership of Damage CTRL. So maybe Iyo will get a rematch against Bayley, but it definitely wouldn't be a surprise if Dakota Kai somehow got a title match against Bayley as well. And even in a recent interview with Ring the Bell, Iyo and Dakota both said that a dream match for them will be to have a triple threat match with themselves and Bayley, a triple threat match with the original Damage CTRL members. So that's an interesting idea, and maybe that's something we could actually see in the not too distant future. Drew Gulak has been front and center of the spotlight over the last weeks, but not for good reasons. Drew has been a popular topic of discussion after Ronda Rousey called him out and told a story about how he was pulling her drawstrings backstage. Drew confirmed that the story and incident did happen, but claims it was a mistake that he apologized for. Well, it's been several weeks since that story first broke, but something interesting happened recently that fans think all stems from this Ronda Rousey incident. Drew Gulak was a part of an active storyline on NXT, but just recently he was brutally attacked and appears to be fully written off that NXT program and off of WWE television in general. So that'll be something to monitor. With Roman Reigns gone and out of the WWE picture for the foreseeable future, and Solo Sikoa going rogue and taking over the Bloodline, this has left Paul Heyman in a very awkward and uncomfortable situation. Prior to WrestleMania 40, Paul Heyman would confidently walk around backstage because he had Solo and Jimmy with him. Plus, he had Roman on speed dial, so there wasn't much to worry about. But now, this current situation is much different. Solo's no longer taking orders from Roman Reigns. Tama Tonga has been brought in without proper permission. Solo isn't allowing Heyman to make phone calls to Roman anymore. And the only one that Heyman really has on his side anymore is a beaten down Jimmy Uso. So Paul Heyman is in a pretty tough spot at the moment. And there's really two ways for Paul Heyman to handle this current situation. He can either pretend to be buying what Solo and Tama are selling. Maybe he can stand by them and try to create peace and understanding for both sides. But if that doesn't work, then obviously Paul Heyman would need to fully distance himself from Solo and Tama. Maybe that includes Paul Heyman turning babyface and sticking with the Usos until Roman is back. But another idea is being thrown around by fans, that Paul Heyman can call in some of his own outside help. It was back in September last year where WWE had Paul Heyman manage Braun Breaker for one single night in NXT, and everyone just instantly loved that pairing and thought that Breaker fit the mold of being a Paul Heyman guy. And even when Braun Breaker first joined SmackDown, he had that moment of throwing up the one gesture with his hand. And that was a moment that fans really overanalyzed due to Breaker's affiliation with Heyman in NXT. So if Heyman needs some outside muscle to protect him, given the current state of the Bloodline, could he turn to Braun Breaker to be an extra insurance and pretty much be a bodyguard through this entire messy situation with the Bloodline? Fans think it may be a great fit and a great way to make that NXT night that they had together all come back full circle. Paul Heyman is known for being a very intelligent character, so he should easily come up with a plan to overcome this situation and at least buy himself a bit of time until Roman's return gets closer. So we'll see what Paul Heyman can pull out of his sleeve for this issue. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.